Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Mr. Nixon. I just wanted to come in and kind of talk today about the tissues. And then I want to make, actually, I think that by the time I get done with this, it's going to be two videos for tissues and then a video that's talking about the lecture exam next week. So you should see a total of three videos go up this weekend. And this will be video number one. Just to throw this out there, I have been grading the lab exams this morning. Some of them look really good. You definitely are on track. For those of you who got the score that you wanted, if whatever you did worked for you, keep working it. Just do that. If you didn't get the score that you wanted, let's talk, let's chat, because there could be a number of different reasons why you may have not scored the way that you wanted to score. It may be that you didn't study enough. It could be that you didn't study correctly, and it could be that it was a mixture of both. I know that when I took classes like these, um, when I first started in the class, sometimes I wouldn't score that well. And it was because of how much studying I was putting into it and my method. And for some of you, you may be used to having someone talking you through a lot of material and you're not hearing it and you're not engaging a person because you're not in the face to face, you're on the online. And so you're missing that. So we need to talk about how to add that piece back in. And if there are more videos that I need to make talking about more material, I don't have a problem doing that. I just need to know. So if there's other material as we're going along and you're like, dude, this ain't making no sense. And I know we covered that chapter last week and we're supposed to be on this other chapter this week, but I'm going to email Mr. Nixon and ask him, could he possibly make a video that talks about this one particular thing? Because I still don't get it. That's not going to bother me. That's my job. So just shoot me an email or give me a call or stop by my office or however you want to contact me, and we can do that. I kind of want to start off today. I'm just going to talk for a few minutes about the introduction to the tissues. And then in the second video, I'm literally going to walk through the four different types of tissues and things that are very key to them and things you should probably try to remember. And then in the third video that I'm going to post this weekend, it'll be a review for the lecture test. And you want to pay close attention to that one. In this first thing, I kind of want to talk to you about why tissues are important. No offense to anybody, I kind of hated this chapter when I learned about this stuff when I was in my undergraduate classes. I didn't like stuff talking about tissues. I didn't understand it. I didn't know what I was looking at. There were all these words I'd never heard of, or they're words that I used for other things. And then here comes this magical section on histology with tissues, and they're using my common terms for uncommon things. I'm like, this is jacked up. And same thing may be happening to you. If you have not looked at the tissue chapter because you're getting ready for the lab exam, you want to go through this chapter thoroughly, because this chapter has material that you're going to use throughout 210, and you're going to use a lot in 211. And you can always, I hate to say this is going to sound kind of negative, but I'm not saying it to throw darts, because I was that student. You can tell when you get to 211 who understood tissues and who didn't real quick, because you'll talk about certain things in 211 and people don't get it. Now, with that being said, because I live on both sides of the desk as a student and as an instructor, part of that also has to do with how well someone explains something to you in 210. So I'm going to do my best to use these two videos to kind of break this stuff down. This first video is going to be kind of short. It's going to be like 10, 15 minutes. The second video is going to be longer than that. And I'm doing that on purpose because I want to make sure that I'm thorough with making some explanations on some certain things. Please understand that when you say tissue, you kind of need to have like this basic thing in your head as a go-to thought. So imagine a neighborhood. All right. Just imagine any neighborhood. I don't care where it is. For some of you, you live near the college. For some of you, you're out of state. Just imagine the neighborhood, your neighborhood, someone else's neighborhood, a neighborhood. And every house in that neighborhood is a cell. Okay. So every house in that neighborhood is a cell, which means that every room in that house is an organelle. So just like a house has a kitchen, it has a master bathroom, has a guest bathroom, a bedroom, a living room, a play area, a kitchenette area, all these different rooms, closets, all these different rooms in a house would be the same as a bunch of different organelles in a cell. So just like a house has a kitchen, a cell has a mitochondrion. Okay. So you following that? So every time you see a house, that's a cell. It's a living organism that contains special rooms that complete different tasks. Boom. So now you got a house, and that is a cell. But if you take a bunch of these houses and put them together and join them together with streets and yards, then you create a neighborhood. So a house by itself is just a house. Take a bunch of yards and a street and you attach them to one another, and you no longer have a house. You now have a neighborhood. And the same thing happens with tissues. If I take a cell and I take things that connect them, the street, and I take something that they may be suspended in or they create, a yard. If you put all that together, then you make a neighborhood, aka a tissue. Did you see what I did there? So don't make a tissue more complex than it needs to be. A tissue is just a group of cells that are working together towards a common goal. Just like a group of houses with a street and yards put together makes a neighborhood. And so when we take a tissue sample, what we really want to do is we're taking a section of a neighborhood to try to figure out what kind of activity is going on in that neighborhood. If I want to know if a neighborhood is healthy, I'll observe the houses in the neighborhood. I may select 5 different houses out of that neighborhood to watch and observe, and that may tell me a lot about the health of that neighborhood. Like, for example, my neighborhood, when they were selling all the houses in our neighborhood are occupied now. But when they were trying to sell homes in our neighborhood, um, the people who were selling the homes, they were brilliant. They were real smart. They knew exactly what areas of our neighborhood to show people to try to win them over. So if a family came in with small children, they immediately took them up the street, because up the street from my house is like playground central. All the kids are right up the street from my house, all of them, except for like 5 teenagers. Nearly all the children are on my side of the neighborhood. So when they were showing houses in the neighborhood to a family that had young kids, they would show them my side of the neighborhood. If they were young professionals, they would take them to the corner of our neighborhood, because at the corner of our neighborhood, there's a lot of younger people who live up there, and they own houses or they rent houses. So you could assess the quality and the health of the neighborhood based off of looking at a sectioned off group of houses, which is the same thing when we're looking at tissues. When we're looking at a tissue sample, we're actually looking at a section of houses that we removed from the neighborhood, along with their yards and their street. And we're observing the care, and we're observing the health of the yard, the street, and the houses. And it tells us a lot about what's been going on in that neighborhood, aka that tissue. All right. So when you look at epithelial, connective, muscular, nervous tissue, all 4 of those categories of tissues, and then the subcategories that come after them, you have to remember, okay, I'm not just looking at this as one inanimate object. I am looking at a group of these houses, aka cells, their yards and the street that they're on, so that I can get an assessment of what's actually happening in this tissue. Um, and hopefully, if you go through this chapter with that in your mind, it'll make things a lot easier to understand. The chapter mentions a term called differentiation. Differentiation is when a cell grows up. It's when a cell goes from being a grunt to actually having a MO. That's a MOS. So what winds up happening is when a cell undergoes mitosis and it creates two daughter cells, at the time, that cell doesn't have a job. It doesn't have a job. It doesn't have a title. It is not specifically doing something. And it can undergo mitosis again because it does not have a job. But when that cell decides to differentiate, in other words, it decides to graduate from just being a cell, and it says, I'm going to become a specific type of cell. That's differentiation. Differentiation is graduation for a cell. It decides it's going to be a specific type of cell doing a specific type of job, and it never goes back. So stem cells, they don't differ. When a stem cell differentiates, he doesn't go back to being a stem cell ever. He moves forward with becoming a specific type of cell. So keep that in mind, because when you get to things like connective tissue, those cells, they start off as just like basic everyday cells, and then they differentiate and they become a specific cell, like a chondrocyte or a fibroblast, some type of cell like that. I think, actually, to be honest with you, that's it for this video. That's what I wanted to talk about. I wanted to get those initial thoughts in your head, because the next video is going to be pretty long, and it's going to be talking about the 4 types of tissue and things for you to remember moving forward. So I'll see you in video number 2 shortly.